Hello songwriter friends, today we're going to take a look at Umbrella by Rihanna. This was a 2007 release, it topped the charts for 10 weeks straight or something crazy like that. And like many millions of people, I really love this song and found it to be different and unexpected and kind of emotionally evocative, right? So last night I was actually at a bar and I went to sing the song and it was a little noisy in the background and I could not for the life of me figure out where the melody started. Like I was singing in the wrong key. And so today I sat down, I'm like, let's figure out where the melody is. Turns out that the specific melody notes that are chosen are fascinating and account for some of the power of the song in ways that you can take for your own songwriting. I think there's a lot of value in that. So let's talk about that. The song is in D major. Let's just go through the chord progression first because that's interesting in its own right, and then we'll talk about how the melody notes intersect with that. So we're in D major. Okay, so we're going to start on a G major chord, which is the 4 chord of D major, and then we're going to go down to D major. Okay, so it's a very disarming kind of plagal motion. It sounds kind of gospel, and it's 2 major chords, and it couldn't be much more, again, disarming, more major sounding, okay? You have my heart, and we'll never be worlds apart. Okay, but then we're going to kind of go sideways. We're going to play a minor 3 chord. And from there, we're going to go to a minor 6 chord. You'll be my star. Now, the minor 3 chord doesn't show up as often in pop music as the other chords do, but there it is. And then we're going to use that to go down a 5th to B minor, which is it's a stronger, a little bolder harmonic motion going down by 5th than this motion down by a 4th. Okay, so we're playing those against each other, those motions against each other. Very gentle in major 4-1, and a little more dramatic in minor down a 5th. Okay, so that's conspicuous. The other thing is that we're doing this 4-1, which makes it sound like we're in D major. But then we go down a 5th from F sharp minor to B minor. And we're like, wait, are we really in B minor? Is this song actually a minor song? And it kind of keeps you suspended, not quite clear whether you're major or minor. And when we get to the melody notes, it gets even better. So hang in there for that. So, but anyway, that's the structure of the verse. Now, if you pull up the sheet music, you'll find some variations in that, but I'm going to make an interpretation in this case and give you these chords. So go with me on that. When we get to the chorus, we only change 1 chord. So, when the sun shines, we'll shine together. That's the same motion. G major, D major, 4-1. Told you I'll be here forever. That's an A major chord. Now, A major is going to be our 5 chord in D major, right? Our chords in D major would be 1, 4, 5, D major, G major, A major. So now we're using 1, 4, 5 in a major key. It couldn't get much more major and stable than that. Okay, 4, 1, 5. Now, if we're going to stick to major, we would go from 5 back to 1 and kind of close the thought there. And that's a standard cadence, the ending of a musical thought. But instead of that, we're going to go from 5 to the minor 6. And we call that a deceptive cadence. Okay, and it's a very, very common thing. And any time you think the ending is going to come in a nice major and you go to the minor 6 instead, it's a really nice way to twist the thought. We're not quite done with the story yet, that kind of thing. Now, the reason that works so well is if you go from 5 to 1, you'd be playing D, F sharp, and A. Okay. If you go 5 to B minor, you're playing B, D, and F sharp. Now, you might notice that 2 of these notes are the same. D major, our tonic chord, and B minor, our minor 6 chord. Okay. So they're overlapping 2 of the 3 notes. So it's a really easy motion. Instead of going from here, we're going to here. And in fact, if you want to play B minor 7 chord, that includes the whole D major triad. Okay, so that makes it even easier on the ear to go from 5 to minor 6. Okay. What's worth noting here is that we've now landed on B minor in 2 distinct ways. One going down by 5th from the minor 3 chord, which is its own kind of distinct harmonic motion, and one going from major 5 to the minor 6 as a deceptive cadence, which is a different way of getting there, but both times we land on the B minor. Both times you get the sense that the minor is kind of home. Okay, let's take a look at the melody now. This is where things get really interesting. So, we're going to start on the first 3 notes of D major. You have my heart. Sounds simple, right? We're in D major, so we're singing the home note and then, 3 blind mice. Nothing more complicated than that. The only catch is that we're singing those 3 notes over the 4 chord, the major 4 chord, which is G major. So this is 1 and this is 4. So that means that these 3 notes are going to sort of mean different things over that G chord than they would over the D chord. And let's take a look at what those colors are. So the first note's the E. Now you could argue this is just a passing note, but we do sit on it for a second. You have my heart, right? It's there long enough that we should think about what color is happening there. So you pick a G major chord and you play the E on top of it. We can call this a G major 6 chord. Okay. 6 chords are a little weird because you can argue that it's not a real chord because it's not made of triads. You could argue that it's actually an E minor 7 chord where you take this E, put it on the bottom, now see you have all triads, and that makes an E minor 7. Now that's a minor chord with a minor 7th on top. So you take E minor, triad, and then instead of the octave, instead of the major 7th, you get the minor 7th, and that's how that would be built. So arguably that's what you're really playing right there. But if you actually swapped in that chord, it would be too dark, okay? You have my heart. It gets a little too on the nose. So what we're going to do is keep the bass on G and that majorness of G, the 4th scale degree of D major, and just kind of allude to the minorness on the way up. But that's what's happening, is you're kind of like, ooh, that sounds like it's part of a minor 7 chord. Okay. Then the next note is going to be this F sharp. Now, in the context of a G major triad, this becomes a major 7 chord. Major 7 chords are really interesting. So you get the major triad, and instead of the octave, come down a half step to the major 7th, and that's your chord. Really beautiful, right? Well, part of the beauty comes from a surprise clash. Okay, if you take out the 2 middle notes of a major 7 chord, you get this, which is very dissonant. The reason it's so dissonant, if you take this and put it up here, you get a minor 2nd. Okay, it's really dissonant interval. But if you add the 2 middle notes in, it's really beautiful. Okay, so the first note we really sit on in the melody, you have my, or the word heart, is over this dissonance, but that's also beautiful. So like, it's a really interesting note to sing on. You're singing on the 7th of a 7 chord, and when you do that, you often get some really interesting, unexpected, and powerful, emotionally evocative colors in your melody. And that's kind of the takeaway point probably from this whole video, is how much power you can get if you experiment with that. So if it wasn't deliberately done, it was very effectively done in this song. So, okay, you have my heart. Great. Now we're going to sing the same notes over a D major triad, and let's see what happens. We'll never be worlds apart. Okay, the 1 and 3 are in the triad, but the E is not. Now the E is, you notice 1, 3, 5, the 2nd note. When you're playing the 2nd note up above, that becomes a 9th. Okay, so we love the sound of a 9th over a major triad. It has this very, whatever that makes you feel is how it makes you feel. It's a great sound though. And so bringing 9ths into your melodies, some songs are built entirely on singing the 9ths over the major triad, whatever chord you're on, and they work really well. So, okay, so that's the color on that note. Again, these are not just triadic melodies. All right. So maybe in magazines, this is where it gets dark. This is where we've gone to the minor 3 chord. But let's look at the melody notes we're singing. We've gone from here, we're going to sing this note, which is the 7th of your minor 7 chord, F sharp minor 7. Okay, you got a minor triad, go to the octave, come through the major 7 to the minor 7. That's how you build a minor 7 chord. Okay, so singing on the 7th, again, great way to make color in your melodies. And we're going to come down to the C sharp. Okay. Now it's interesting to look at sitting on the C sharp, because if we zoom out again to D major, this is the leading tone of D major. Okay, it is in some ways the most tense note in the entire scale. Right? Because it's at half step from home. So sitting there is an interesting melodic choice. It has tension built into it, and it also happens to be a half step below the D when we move to a B minor chord. Okay. Now, in a B minor triad, the middle note is the note that makes it minor. When you sing the middle note of a minor triad, you tend to be highlighting the minorness of that chord. You'll see that a lot. If you analyze melodies that go to a minor chord, you're often singing the 3rd note. And we're not only singing the 3rd note, we set it up by having this half step below, so that it's even more drama when we get to it. And then we're going to sing from that down to the B to kind of highlight that, yes, this is the minor 3rd in the bottom of a B minor triad. Okay. So see how sculpted that all is? Like, every note is doing something really purposeful and related to the notes around it, and the melody related to the chords to make you feel a certain way. It's really brilliant design. So, okay, that's the verse. The chorus is pretty similar, but in terms of the chords, but the melody is doing all different things. So let's take a look at that next. When we get to the chorus, it's the first time we break free of these 2 notes bracketing the melody we had throughout the verse. It turns out these are the 1 and 5 of a B minor triad. We've been sitting in the space the whole time for the verse, which is interesting because it almost makes you feel like we've been singing a song in B minor. Now we start in the middle of that on the D, and we sing up as though we're going to be singing a D major scale, right? Something simple. But we never quite make it past this note. We keep falling back down to the B. So the whole verse really sets us up with this tension, wanting to finally hear this. So when we get there, it feels like the sun's shining. Okay, so when the sun shines, we shine together. It's worth noting that on that D major, we're going to sing the 5 and 3. I've noticed that in melodies, when you want to evoke nostalgia, reflectiveness, and warmth, melodies based on the 5 and 3 of major triads work pretty well. Okay, so that's what we're doing there. And then we're going to go from this F sharp down to the A major. Now it's worth noticing that going from F sharp to E over an A major triad creates a little bit of the same darkness we encountered when we play the E over the G. Okay, and it's the same idea. When you play this sort of 6 chord, and that's what this would be, A, C, E, 1, 3, 5 plus the 6, you are also playing an inversion of a different minor 7 chord, in this case the F sharp minor 7. Okay, which we've heard elsewhere in the song. So when you sing this to that, it has this little moment of darkness. Now it's interesting to think about the lyrics that are associated with each of these color notes, okay? When the sun shines, that one's straightforward, the sun shining, shine together. The 5 and 3 sing over together, a nostalgic sense of warmth. I'll be here forever. We're going to throw a little darkness on that because no one lives forever. Nothing ever lasts forever, right? I'll always be your friend. Now that's an interesting note. This would be the most harmonically complex melody note we've encountered so far because we're singing an E over a B minor. Now you could argue that this is just a 4-3 suspension, which it is, but if you take this note, it also can become an 11th. So you're kind of invoking this sound, which is the most complex, almost jazzy sound that we've heard so far. Okay, so let's look at that again. When the sun shines, we shine together. Nostalgic, I'll be here forever. A little doubt on the word forever. Always be your friend. Great, we got that 11th there. Took an oath, I must stick it out to the end. And this is just highlighting the 1 and 3 B minor again. Okay, pretty cool, right? And then we went to the umbrella part. You can stand under my umbrella. Singing on the 5 and 3 over G major, conspicuous. Ella, 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 A, under my umbrella. 6 to 5 over F sharp minor, which by the way, when you do a 6-5 over a minor triad, now you're getting a major 7 chord, right? Kind of suggested in there, that tension that we got in the very beginning of the song. So there you go. That's how the melody of the chorus works. Let's take a look at the bridge, which does something really cool too. Okay, so we finished out the verse on the B minor. You sort of implied hearing this C sharp in there, right? D, 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 D. So instead of giving you the C sharp, we're going to go to a C natural, or we're going to play a flat 7 chord. Now, what is a flat 7 chord? Well, in D major, you get 2 black notes, F sharp and C sharp, which means you don't get a C natural. We don't have that in our scale. We haven't heard that note. Now, it also means that if you do want to play a C chord, you're going to be playing a C sharp diminished chord, which is a very crunchy chord. The only place you're likely to run into this is the top 3 notes of an A dominant 7, your dominant 7-5 chord, right? And that's there specifically because it's so crunchy, belong to the 1. Okay, so we don't hear that chord on its own very often. But it's a missed chord, right? It's a chord we could be using for color, and we don't have it. So one of the things you can do is take this crunchy diminished chord and drop that note here down a half step to the flat 7. So this would be the natural 7, this would be the flat 7 in D major, right? So now you hear the C major triad. And it's interesting because it sounds big and bright, but it also sounds kind of dark because you've dropped a half step. It's a note that doesn't belong in the scale, but you're dropping from crunchy, releasing tension to something open sounding. So it's a really refreshing chord to hear in a progression. Okay, now what's it doing here? Well, what we're doing is setting up progression down by fourths for the bridge. We're going to go from C major down to G major, down to D major, down to A major. Okay. Notice what we've done here is we started on a 1, gone up a 4th, and gone up another 4th. And that's one of the ways you get to the flat 7 is doing a 4 of 4. You know, because the whole song's been 1 to 4, D major to G major. Go up another 4th, you get a C major. And so if you're going down by fourths, you can sort of invoke the C major, and it really freshens the palette. So, under my umbrella, sound. See how fresh and bright that sounds, but also like kind of dark too. It's a really interesting sound. So now we're singing on the G, which is the same note that the chorus sat on. You can run into my arms, it's okay, don't be alarmed, come into me, distance in between. So we've just gone down by fourths, back to our 5 chord. Our melody is just falling toward 1. Okay, we're not quite going to get there. Let the rain pour, I'm all you need. Now, we're on the 4 chord. We're expecting to go to 1, which is where I've been going. Instead, we're going to go to a major 3 chord. Okay, we haven't seen the major 3 chord. We've been playing the minor 3 chord, F sharp minor or F sharp minor 7. So to get an F sharp major chord means something is going on. Now, the most common place you run into a major 3 is when you're using it as the 5, the dominant, in a 5-1 motion to your relative minor. We discussed how C major is our major, B minor is our relative minor. So if you want to get a 5-1 motion to there, what you do is take your 3 chord, make it major, and now this middle note is a half step below the B, and it serves that 5-1 dominant to tonic motion in B minor. Okay, so that's why when you hear a major 3 chord in a major key, it often sounds kind of dark. You know, you're playing these, like it sounds dramatic, even though it's a major triad, right? Why should it sound so dark? And that's kind of why, because it's setting up this tension to go to the minor 6. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. Now, we've been going through these fourths, so we're going to do it again. We're going to go to here. Now, as soon as you hear that, you're like, ooh, I see retroactively what's happening. We're doing a 6 to 5 heading to B minor, which is a really great dramatic motion. If we were in B minor, you're going the major 6 chord, the G major, down to that F sharp major, which would be your 5 chord in B minor, down to 1 is a cool dramatic motion. Okay, so that's what it feels like we've done here. And you're like, your ear is sure we're going to go to B minor, but you don't. Instead of 5-1, we go 5-6. It's another deceptive cadence, but it's a deceptive cadence in the relative minor. Okay, but it has that same like gut punch sense of like, ooh, something changed. But instead of changing from major to minor, you change from what feels really dark to a surprise brightening. Okay, you're setting up maximum tension to hear it go dark, and instead you get maximum release back to that G major, which is the brightest and shiniest moment in the whole song. The whole bridge is set up to create that tension so that you can enjoy the greatest moment of the sun shining of the whole song. And it's really a beautiful harmonic mechanism to make that land even harder than it did the first few times, which was already brilliant. So, oh, when the sun shines, we shine together. And then it goes on through the rest of the song. So anyway, pretty cool, right? Like there's so much more going on under the hood in that song than one might think, as so many people in music theory do. Oh, it's just a pop song. It's just standard chords. There's nothing going on. It's really interesting once you start taking it apart. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it lets you appreciate the song more. And thank you very much for watching.